There is a video which is Four Pillar by Immanuel Kant. Immanuel Kant is a German philosopher. He is a very great philosopher and he has several influential works in philosophy. Some of his most and well-known books include Critique of Pure Reason, which he wrote in 1781. This is perhaps his most famous work, where he explores the limit and scope of human knowledge and human understanding. I read his books since 2008, and they are really very difficult. So I used to get up at 4 in the morning because my mind is good, and then I take it word by word and then be in the same wavelength as his brain to understand what is going on, what he wants to teach us, and also I write down every word. It is very hard work. And then Critique of Practical Reason, which he wrote in 1788. In this work, Kant examines moral philosophy and the principles of ethical behavior. 3. Critique of Judgment, 1790. This book deals with aesthetic and teleology, exploring beauty and the purpose of nature. 4. A groundwork of the metaphysics of morals, in 1785. This is a foundational text in moral philosophy where Kant introduces the concept of categorical imperative. It's just like laws, categorical imperative, laws. When you want to do something, you imagine all the world do the same. And he gave example about a promise. If we give a promise and we don't do the promise, for example, I come to you and borrow money, and I tell you I'll pay it within a month. But then in my inside, no, I don't pay it. If everyone do the same, so the principle of promise will fall. It has no value. This is an example of categorical imperative. Laws, moral laws. 5. Religion within the bounds of bare reason. 1793. In this work, Kant addresses the relationship between religion and morality. He believes religion is very important to keep the people moral. 6. The metaphysics of moral, 1797. This work further develops his moral philosophy and is divided into the doctrine of right and the doctrine of virtue. And he is very strict. He said, for example, they give example, if you have in the Nazis' time in Germany a Jew in your house and the soldiers came, do you have somebody in your house? You should say yes, even if they kill him. But some philosophers, they argue this is not good. And of course they keep people arguing. But they think you should not lie, because lie is very dangerous. And these are just some of his key works, and Kant's influence extends across many fields, including epistemology, which is the theory of knowledge, ethics, manners, virtues, metaphysics, and aesthetic. So what is teleology? It is the study of purposes or goals in natural processes. In philosophy, it refers to the ideas that natural phenomena have inherent purposes or ends. So, for example, in biology, one might look at the function of an organ or a trait as having a purpose. The term also plays a significant role in Kant philosophy, especially in the Critique of Judgment, where he examines the idea of purpose in nature and aesthetic. Aesthetic is the branch of philosophy that deals with nature of beauty, art and taste, as well as the creation and appreciation of a beauty. And now it is a branch in medicine, it is called aesthetic. It explores questions about what makes something aesthetically pleasing or meaningful. But it also looks at how we perceive and evaluate art and nature, which is very beautiful. Essentially, aesthetic bridges philosophy and the arts, helping us understand the emotional and intellectual responses we have to various forms of expression: poetry, art, writing, literature, music, painting, sculpture, and so on and so forth. So what is epistemology? Epistemology is a branch of philosophy that focuses on the nature, scope, and limits of knowledge. Knowledge. It addresses a question like, what is knowledge? How do we know what we know? How do we know what we know? And he said, by experience, which is posteriori, after the experience we know. And sometimes he thinks that it is a priori, meaning we know before the experience. And I added futuriori, meaning we know the future. How? From observation, from experience in life. For example, I have the knowledge of Iraq will go into war in 1990 because I observe something abnormal. So I have to leave everything before it started, the Iraqi-Iranian war in 1990. I left everything. I didn't take anything so that I don't raise the suspicion I'm not coming back. And started again.
That's a pretty poignant line.
So this is very important to know that good. That it is very important to know.
Absolutely.
يعني احنا عندنا هواية invasion of our privacy nowadays. يعني مأساة هذا التكنولوجيا. هو مهم. I start to speak in Arabic. I'm sorry. I have to come back to what I wrote about aesthetic. I finished aesthetic epistemology. Okay. Is the branch of philosophy that focuses on the nature, scope, and limit of knowledge. It addresses a question like, what is knowledge? How do we know what we know? What justice or beautiful? And beliefs. Justice or belief. What justify our beliefs? Even what justify wars. There is just war and unjust war. I have read about it, and there are principles. It explores the sources and validity of knowledge, the distinction between belief and truth, and the criteria for what counts as knowledge. Essentially, it is the study of how we come to understand and validate what we believe to be true. In fact, his book, A Critique of Pure Reason, it is human understanding, how we understand. Okay, ontology is the branch of philosophy that deals with the study of being, to be and not to be. In the literature by Shakespeare in his play Hamlet, to be or not to be. Existence and the nature of reality. It explores questions about what entities exist, how they can be categorized, and what it means for something to be or not to be. Essentially, ontology looks at the fundamental structures of reality, examining concepts like existence, object, properties, space, time, and causality. It is one of the core areas of metaphysics. Metaphysics, what is metaphysics? Is a branch of philosophy that explores the fundamental nature of reality. It deals with the questions about existence, the nature of objects and their properties, space and time, cause and effect, and the relationship between mind and matter. Cause and effect, it is very, very important in philosophy because there are rules to see this is a cause of this. And this helped me a lot in medicine when there is a problem with a case. Because usually the people who are not deep, they think this is the cause of this problem. No. It is usually a correlation, not cause. And this is very, very important when you do quality assurance in medicine and when there is a problem, even death of a patient. Sometimes it is due to the problem they came too late. It's not the surgeon. Or sometimes if there is infection, it could be the operating theater or the ward is dirty, which I discovered in one of the hospitals in Iraq. Every wound was inflamed because the operating theater was very small, very dirty, and there are no rules of sterilization applied. But this is in the 70s of the last century. And I know sterilization because I studied in UK in the Royal College of Surgeons of Edinburgh, and I practiced in UK, and I learned all my technique and become a surgeon to go back home to help my people. So essentially metaphysics ask the big abstract questions, about what things are and how they exist beyond the physical or empirical world. Ethics, what is ethics? It's very important because in my videos in Arabic, I always talk about manners, ethics, to have a good life. So ethics is the branch of philosophy that deal with the questions about morality, right and wrong, and what it means to live a good life. It examines the principles of conduct, values, and the standards by which we judge actions and character. Ethics can be divided into different areas, such as normative ethics, which explore what actions are right or wrong, meta-ethics, which look at the nature of moral judgment, and applied ethics, which deal with the specific moral issues in real-world context. Essentially, ethics guide us in understanding what we ought to do and how we ought to live. Then I asked the ChatGPT. I said, okay, ethics should be applied to individuals, but also, is it applied to states? Especially in those called state, which called the highly developed civilized countries and government, they should be ethical or not? Because I don't know, I want to learn. So he answered me, that is really a thoughtful question. In general, ethics applies to both individuals and collective entities like states or government. For the individual, ethics guide personal behavior and decisions. For states or government, ethics play a crucial role in policy making, governance, and how they treat their citizens and other nations. So in highly developed countries or civilized countries, ethical governance is especially important because it helps ensure justice, protect human rights, promote fairness, and maintain trust in institutions. Ethical framework for state often include principles like transparency, accountability, and the protection of the common good. It is very important, the common good. It is also a philosophy, the common good. Should we sacrifice one person for the common good? For example, a tyrant came and he said, give me this man. He did nothing. I want to kill him. And then I will let you free. So the practical, the common good, some people give him this, even innocent, so that we will be free. But the other group, they said, no, this is unethical. So there is always a discussion. So ethical considerations are definitely vital at both the individual and the societal level. And they complement each other in creating a more just and moral world. Because justice, virtues, it is very, very important in the Republic, the book by Plato, which is more than 2,000 years, and he make a state, economy, wars. It happened because of resources. And nowadays, the invasions, all because of resources. For example, the oil and the energy. And this is noticed by Plato, he is from Athens. And this book, The Republic, which I studied in the 60s, it is the there is a comment by another philosopher. He said, all other philosophy is a footnote to Plato, and it is the principle of Western civilization. So I studied Republic by Plato. I read it many times. I memorized it by heart. It is all about justice. Okay, let us see. So I ask a question. What happened to a nation which is very strong in weapons and start to invade other countries, kill people, take their kings or ambassador or their president and kill them? What can we call this state? The ChatGPT answer me. I don't know, I'm learning. What you are describing is often referred to as imperialism or materialism, where powerful nation uses its military strength to expand its influences and control over other countries. When it involves the top leadership being overthrown or assassinated, it can also be described as a form of tyranny or despotism. In historical context, these actions have often been labeled as imperial conquests or colonization, and they typically lead to a significant conflict, humanitarian crisis, and long-term instability. It is definitely a complex and often a tragic scenario. It is a tragic scenario. Okay, so he said, this ChatGPT, that is a really important question. Ordinary people, I ask, what ordinary people can we do? We can't do nothing. Nobody listen to us. Nobody notice us. So he answered, that is really an important question. Ordinary people can play a crucial role in opposing and preventing such aggression. I think this is theoretical. Some way includes 1. Advocacy and awareness. Raising awareness about the situation through media, social platforms, and public discourse can put a pressure on leaders and policy makers. And I think this is not working. This is only theory. It doesn't work. Peaceful protest. Organized non-violent demonstration can help show widespread opposition and mobilize global attention. Doesn't work. 3. Supporting human rights organization. Contributing to or collaborating with NGOs and human rights groups can help amplify the voices of those affected and people aid and support. 4. Political engagement, voting, lobbying, and contacting representatives can influence government policies and promote peaceful resolution. It's all a joke. It's only talking. Anyway, we'll continue. International cooperation, something very frightening. International cooperation. Supporting diplomatic efforts and international institutions that promote peace and conflict resolution can help deter aggression. Okay. In essence, collective action, solidarity, and persistent advocacy can make a significant difference in stopping such harmful actions. So they are harmful actions. They are not good. So I ask, what if all these are not effective? What can we do? If those efforts aren't effective, it can definitely feel challenging, but there are still some avenues to explore. For example, building grassroots movements. Sometimes change starts at the grassroots level. Communities can come together to create local support networks, provide humanitarian aid, and foster resilience, like metabolic flexibility in the body, resilience. 2. International pressure. Even if one nation efforts are blocked, other countries and international bodies can continue applying diplomatic and economic pressure. Sanctions, resolutions, and international courts can help. Also, it doesn't work. 3. Humanitarian assistance. providing support to affected population, whether through NGOs or local initiatives, can help alleviate suffering and build a long-term resilience for cultural and educational efforts. Promoting understanding, tolerance, and education can help prevent future conflicts and foster a more peaceful global community. 5. Staying informed and engaged. Keeping informed, supporting ethical leadership, and participating in a global dialogue can contribute to long-term change. These dialogues. It is all in the dialogues which is written by Plato more than 2000 years ago. And he put justice, and he put one of the dialogue about, is it power, justice, laws? He said some people think is only for the weak, not for the strong. So ultimately, while it can be discouraging when initial effort don't succeed, persistence, solidarity, and the creative approaches can still make a meaningful impact over time. So I said this is important to know, and it is good, but absolutely it is definitely understanding this dynamic. So it is really, we are in unjust world, injustice. I don't know what to do, nothing. Perhaps when the person behave in ethical way and become honest and wrong and know the wrong way, perhaps this will be only as individual. So now we come back to the thing which stimulates me to talk about Immanuel Kant, and there are 4 pillars in this video about Immanuel Kant.
Means this: if you're getting older and it feels like people are slowly disappearing from your life, listen to me for a moment, because there's a quiet fear nobody likes to say out loud. What happens when the phone stops ringing? When the people you built your identity around, your role, your usefulness, your place in their lives, aren't there anymore? Most people distract
When
themselves
you get
from that
older.
question. They stay busy, they stay loud, they stay surrounded, but the fear doesn't go away. It just waits. So stay with me to the end, because I'm going to give you 4 pillars that keep a person psychologically intact as they grow older. And the third one, that's the one that makes people go very quiet, because it exposes the real reason aging.
I mess with it.
Tell you the truth. Old age is not only a physical change, it's a psychological test. Kant said something brutal: you must become a law unto yourself. In plain language, that means this: if your peace depends on other people staying, approving, or needing you, you will suffer. But if your peace comes from your inner ground, you become unshakable. When we're young,
From inside.
we lean on relationships like crutches, and in old age, life removes those crutches, not to punish us, but to reveal what's real. This is the season where you discover which connections were love and which were just attachment. Kids move out, friends drift, a partner can feel like a stranger, and that's when people panic. They grab for noise, attention, company, anything to avoid the emptiness. But here's the twist, that emptiness is not the enemy, it's the doorway. Pillar 1, you must learn to be alone without turning it into suffering. And I'm going to say this plainly, because nobody tells you the truth when you're older.
You have to train yourself to be alone.
Loneliness isn't just, I don't have people around. Loneliness is when you're not at peace with yourself. So the silence feels like a threat. That's why 2 people can live in the same empty house and have completely different lives. One person experiences quiet like a prison. The other experiences it like a sanctuary. I want you to picture a woman in a quiet apartment. It's evening, the sun is going down, the world outside is busy, but her space is calm. She sits by the window with a book and a cup of tea. She turns one page, then another, and she's not waiting for someone to call. She's not scrolling her phone like a life support machine. She's not bargaining with the universe like, please, just send me somebody. She's simply there, and that's the part most people don't understand. She's not running from solitude, she's filling it with meaning, because being alone is not the tragedy. The tragedy is being alone and feeling like you're abandoned by life, like you've been removed from the world, like your value expired when people stop needing you. That's what turns silence into suffering. But when you build an inner relationship with yourself, when you learn how to sit in your own presence without panic, something changes inside your body. Not just your mind, your body, your nervous system stops begging for rescue. That's real freedom. When your nervous system stops searching for someone else to save you from your own presence. And I know for a lot of people that sounds impossible, because your whole life you were trained to be useful, to be needed, to be the helper, the provider, the caretaker, the one who holds the family together. So when the roles fade, it can feel like you fade. But listen, you are not fading. You are being called back to yourself. This pillar isn't about rejecting love or becoming cold. It's about refusing to make other people your oxygen. It's about learning to breathe in your own life again. So here's the question, and I want you to answer it honestly, even if the answer stings. When you're alone, do you feel peace? Or do you feel like you're being punished? Because if being alone feels like punishment, it's not proof that you're broken, it's proof you've never been taught how to belong to yourself. And that can be learned. Slowly, gently, one evening at a time. Now here's where most people fail. They try to fix loneliness with people, but ignore the second pillar. Pillar 2, your day needs structure. And no, this is not about becoming rigid, boring, or turning your life into a checklist. It's about survival, because chaos on the outside slowly becomes chaos on the inside, especially as you get older. When life was crowded with work, children, noise, and obligations, disorder hid in the background. But when things quiet down, disorder gets loud. Order is not just cleaning. Order is emotional hygiene. When you organize your space, you are not just moving objects, you are sending a signal to your nervous system. I am in control of my environment. I am safe here. I've seen this again and again. People with closets full of old clothes they haven't worn in decades, broken lamps they keep meaning to fix, drawers stuffed with letters, photos, objects from lives that no longer exist, and they call it sentimental. They say, I might need this someday. I can't throw that away, it reminds me of someone. But here's the truth most people avoid very often. That's not nostalgia, it's grief that never had a place to go. So it's settled into the furniture. Every object you keep carries weight. Every unfinished corner quietly asks something of you. And when your home is full of emotional residue, your mind never fully rests. That's why some people wake up tired in a clean bed, not because of age, but because they are surrounded by the past, asking to be remembered, processed, mourned. The past can become a burden so heavy it steals your present. Order creates rhythm, and rhythm creates dignity. Waking up at a consistent time, eating at regular hours, making your bed, clearing one surface, lighting a candle at night, putting things back where they belong. These are not small acts, they are grounding rituals. They tell your inner world, life still has shape. My days still matter. Without rhythm, time becomes a blur. Days leak into each other, and slowly, meaning dissolves. This is why people who say nothing is wrong still feel restless and anxious. Their environment is speaking a language of chaos, even if their words deny it. So I want to ask you something, and don't rush the answer. What is one thing in your home you have kept for years that secretly drains you every time you see it? Something you avoid touching. Something that carries a memory you never finished feeling. You don't have to throw everything away today, but you do have to stop. Pretending disorder is harmless, because once you build rhythm and order, once your outer world stops pulling at your attention, you'll start to notice the next trap. A trap that has nothing to do with objects and everything to do with other people. And that's where Pillar 3 begins. Pillar 3, you must stop living under other people's eyes. And I'm telling you right now, this is the one that makes people uncomfortable because it exposes something most of us don't want to admit. A large part of your life has been performance. Not because you're fake, because you learned early that approval equals safety, so you became good, helpful, easy to love. You learned how to read the room, keep the peace, be the version of yourself that gets rewarded. But here's the brutal truth. If you need permission to be yourself, you will never be free. Real freedom is acting from your inner law, not from approval. And old age has a strange way of dragging this into the light. Because when your body changes, when your social role shifts, when your circle gets smaller, the audience thins out, and suddenly you're left with a terrifying question. If nobody is watching, who am I? Let me give you a simple example. There's a man in the neighborhood who argues with his wife every night. Raised voices, doors closing, that tense silence afterward. But the next morning, he's outside smiling like a politician, telling everyone, we're doing great, life is good. Why? Because other people's opinions are often just mirrors of their fear. Fear of being judged, fear of being seen, fear of admitting the truth, and that fear turns your whole life into a stage.
Truth.
You start making choices based on what will look right, what will keep people from talking, what will make your family proud, what will keep you from feeling ashamed. But listen closely, old age humiliates the need to impress. It humiliates it because the cost becomes too high. You can't keep proving yourself forever. You can't keep auditioning for love. You can't keep editing your truth so other people stay comfortable. And honestly, you shouldn't have to. There is a peace that arrives when you stop explaining, when you stop defending, when you stop trying to be understood by people who aren't even being honest with themselves. And I know some of you feel that guilt already. You think, if I disappoint them, I'll be alone. But if being accepted requires you to betray yourself, you were already alone. You were just surrounded. So I want to ask you a question that might hit you in the chest. What opinion are you still trying to outrun? Your families, your communities, your exes, your children's, or the harshest one of all, your younger selves, the one who thought life had to look a certain way to be worth living. Because the moment you stop living for their eyes, you finally come home to your own. And now we get to the deepest pillar, the one that decides whether your later years feel empty or sacred. Pillar 4, you must stay loyal to yourself, not your role, not your reputation, not what you used to be for other people. You, your inner meaning. Because here's what no one prepares you for. As you get older, the world slowly stops assigning you a purpose. You're not needed in the same ways. You're not praised the same ways. You're not called as often. And if your sense of worth came from being useful to everyone else, this stage of life can feel like you're disappearing. But you are not disappearing. You're being asked to choose yourself on purpose, without applause. And this is where most people get it wrong. They think meaning has to be big, a grand mission, a dramatic comeback story, a new relationship, a new identity. realize what she's really doing. She's keeping her inner world alive. She's feeding the part of her that still feels beauty. Some people grow tomatoes, not for the harvest, but for the care. Because
Caring.
tending something living gives the soul a reason to wake up. Some people stretch every
It is
bone so
therapy.
the body doesn't become a prison. They're not training for anyone. They're keeping a promise to themselves. I will not abandon my own body. Some people write one paragraph a day, so the
I
day
treat
doesn't
plant
disappear.
like patient. I look
Because
after
when
them. I
time
care for
moves
them. I talk
fast,
to them.
Writing
I
is how
sing
you
for
leave
them.
proof you existed. One sentence can be a lighthouse, and I need you to hear this clearly. These things look small, but they are rebellion. They are rebellion against the story that says, if no one is watching, it doesn't count. They are rebellion against the idea that your value expires when your social role fades. They are your soul saying, I still matter. And when you stay loyal to yourself in these simple ways, something powerful happens. You stop waiting for life to start again. You stop begging for meaning from other people. You become the source. So here's what I want from you, because I know someone listening needs permission. Tell me your one small ritual that makes life feel real.
Wow.
Is it making your bed, lighting a candle, taking a slow walk, playing one song you love, writing a few lines, watering a plant? Drop it in the comments. I
All
read
of the
them,
above.
and you never know
All of
who
the
you'll
above.
help feel less alone.
All of the above.
So here's what aging is really asking from you. Be alone without misery. Build order and rhythm. Stop living for judgment. Stay loyal to your inner meaning, because old age is not the end. It's not a punishment. It's the moment life strips away what's temporary, roles, noise, approval, even certain relationships, so you can finally meet what's true. And what's true is this: you were never meant to survive on other people's attention. You were meant to become rooted in yourself. Freedom isn't no constraints. Freedom is living from your inner law, even when the world gets quiet, even when nobody claps, even when you don't feel needed anymore. For as Kant said, man must be a law unto himself, not a slave to external influences. If this hit you,
And I learned to be alone from a dear friend of mine. She's also a gynecologist and obstetrician. She was a Christian and she immigrated to America. And then she felt lonely, very lonely. She get her happiness from other people. And then she became depressed and took tablet Prozac. And she had constipation and she started to be unhealthy. Now she's dead. And from that friend, I learned to teach myself how to live on my own. To do shopping, cooking, cleaning, I live. And it is skill, just like surgical skill. It is difficult at the beginning, especially for us. We come from a culture where we live in extended family, but we can teach ourselves. And the plants and living things, some people, they have pets, animals, cats, dogs, but for me, no, plants. Plants, they are living and they react and they need care. They need a lot of care, light, water, compost, and so on. And it was a very good therapy for me when I did planting on my garden, when I stopped medicine. Or they asked me to stop. But it is good. I thank them really, because I start living. I had enough medicine. Thank you and goodbye.